This video is sponsored by Sunflex UK. My name is Neil, this is Real Life Architecture. I'll be upfront with you. When people approach me saying, Neil, I want to build an attic conversion, I want to convert the loft and make it into habitable rooms, 90% of the time, nothing ever happens. Now, if you watch the channel, you know I offer consultations to homeowners anywhere in the UK. The owner of this house in England contacted me because they needed to know if they could convert the attic and also extend out the side. They needed to make the house bigger. And you can see it's a nice 1960s developer's home. Nothing particularly fancy, but by today's standards has quite a lot of ground around it. And this is the floor plan. It's fairly basic, fairly simple layout. You come in here, there's a small kitchen, there's a lounge and 2 bedrooms and a decent family-sized bathroom. For the size of the house, the kitchen is probably already too small and there's a big chimney here in the middle. And the client, unusually, actually sent me some of their own 3D images. Don't worry if you're thinking of booking a consultation, I do not need you to do this. At the very least, send me some photographs. If you have estate agent's floor plans, that's all I really need. But this particular client had mocked up what they want. So that is the front elevation here. That is this. So you can see they want to build this 2-story extension over here, and that's where the problems start. You can see that neighbor there, they built a dormer, and when we found the planning application for this, they built the dormer a few years ago and a conservatory out the front. Unusually, they've got quite a lot of ground around the front of these properties, and you can see this is a Google Street View image from the road adjacent over the back hedge. That's the back of the property. There's the neighbor with this dormer, and there's bedrooms up there. The problem is, right, if you build a 2-story extension, you could do 2 things. You could overlook and you could overshadow. Overlooking is obvious, is when there's windows peering into someone's bedroom or living room. You can't do that, and there are minimum distances, usually 18 meters window to window. You can go a bit closer if the windows are at an angle, but not by much. So you can see that will be an issue here. So the only windows you could have would be front and back. So that's livable. You could manage that. Of course, if you're going to talk about overlooking, you're talking about windows. And that brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Sunflex UK, who design and manufacture high-quality aluminium doors and windows in the UK. I've used them on my own projects, and I honestly believe they provide a great balance between cost and quality. Check out the playlist of videos I've made about Sunflex UK. They really are fantastic, and thanks for supporting the channel. But overshadowing happens if you overshadow someone's windows, but also their private rear garden. So their rear garden's back here. You can see from the front that if we build up that side there, like the client wanted to do, you're right on the boundary. They've visualized the fence. And south is over here, the sun is over here. That will cast a massive shadow onto the side of the neighbor's house and into their garden. I told them this is probably a showstopper. There's our house, there's the neighbor in that little box there, that's the dormer. So you can see there's the garage at the moment, there's the boundary, quite tight. And you could easily imagine if we made that 2 stories, you're going to be casting shadows all over this area here. The planners will probably kill that stone dead. You could maybe get away with 1 story, that might be feasible, but 2-story, So then we begin to look at the roof, and turns out there's the attic hatch. You can see that the property was dated quite badly when they bought the place, but there's your attic hatch, and initially it looks nothing special until you see this photograph. That is a whopper. Now, I'll be upfront with you. When people approach me saying, Neil, I want to build an attic conversion, I want to convert the loft and make it into habitable rooms, 90% of the time, nothing ever happens. Either it's way too small, there's not enough headroom, they don't have enough money, or it's too disruptive to the layout of the top floor of their existing house. All of these hurdles, eventually one of them is going to trip you up. It has been years since I've last converted an attic, and because eventually even people with plenty of money realize I'm just not going to get as much out of this as I'd imagined. I took one look at this and thought, actually, wait a second, there's quite a lot of space here. You can see there's this window on the gable. It's here, so you get the sense that that's probably about over 6 feet, maybe 2 meters tall right there, so you can see out of it, judging by the scale of it. I don't have drawings of this. I don't have anything to show me what the height is measured out accurately. We just have the floor plan. But this photograph, yeah, I think there's quite a bit you could do here. So looking at this and the fact that the budget was about £200,000, that's a lot of money in anybody's book. With £200,000 would face quite a stark choice. You would probably be able to build some amount of extension, but not have enough left over to do justice to the inside of the house. However, For an attic conversion, you wouldn't need to spend anything like that amount of money. You could get away with a fraction of that sum to convert the attic. So this is what we looked at. This is the original layout. We've got our doorway, kitchen, lounge, and 2 bedrooms at the back with a bathroom in the middle. Now the problem you face with any pitched roof attic is that ideally the stairs just wants to be in the middle. It wants to be in the middle somewhere. So you get to the top of the stairs, there's a room on the left, a room on the right, and you have to maintain headroom, at least 2 meters on all parts of the stairs, including on the landing. So with that in mind, I said, well, okay, let's keep the door where it is. I don't think it's ideal, but it's the path of least resistance. Come in here, make a little vestibule. I've had people in the comments of previous videos really go through me for not putting vestibules in. You guys seem to like vestibules. Fine, you get a vestibule. And we can then make this into an open plan space. We can create a space here in the middle. We have to move this wall back. Previously it was over here, push it back about a meter, and you create a zone in the middle where we can put a stair. And you start climbing here, half landing, come up, and you arrive more or less in the middle of the roof under its highest point. And then in the attic, you could imagine a room on the left, a room on the right, and Bob's your uncle. Problem, though, is that even though that roof is quite tall, you can see from there that it's, it's a generous roof. It's got a decent pitch, and the building's quite wide, so you wind up with a lot of space underneath it. That doesn't mean there's infinite space. So as you start climbing these steps, eventually you're going to run out of this 2-meter headroom. You may even be banging your head by the time you're on that half landing. But I don't have that information because there isn't a cross-section drawing. There isn't a drawing showing the height from floor to ceiling, the thickness of the attic floor, and the actual measured pitch of the roof. We also have to factor in, when you do these things, you have to insulate below the rafters. So there'll be insulation between the rafters and below the rafters. The floor might well have to be stiffened up both for acoustic insulation. We have to prove that we're not transmitting sound, but also possibly for structural reasons. You're looking at that photograph there. The floor does look pretty thin, so that might need to be beefed up. So what's going to happen is that the walls and the floor are going to start closing in. So it's going to be less generous when it's done. Not by an enormous amount, but every inch matters when you're converting an attic. So I think to get away with this layout, you might still need a dormer on that side, which creates problems then for overlooking potentially. But how would you get around this? Well, you could move the stairs further into the middle, and we could then have the door to this bedroom off the lounge here. I know that's not ideal, but the point of this is you start climbing here and you're under a higher point of the roof. Again, I can't guarantee for a fact this layout will work because I don't have a cross-section drawing, but as you come up here, you're still arriving underneath the highest point of the roof. There's a room on the left, a room on the right, and we have got a nice kitchen, lounge, dining area. One thing that jumps out from this is we've got 2 bedrooms down here, 2 bedrooms upstairs. That now means we've got twice as many people in this house as we did before. I don't think this living area is probably quite big enough. We may need to consider having a second living area here. But the flexibility exists. You could take one of these bedrooms, make it into a home office or a second living area. People with teenage kids always seem to want to have a second living area, often with a locked door. It's not apparent whether the lock is for the parents or the teenagers, but who knows. So this layout could be made to work. This is the starter. I'm not saying this is it, the finished iteration of the design. I don't think so. I think this is just a good start to show where the main event is going to go. I would like to change that entrance, ideally make it wider, cut down one of these windows. Something like that would make this work a little bit better. But at the end of the day, this is minimal impact. This would be able to work. We might be able to get away without having a dormer to provide enough headroom over the stairs. Possibly, but that would have to be measured by someone. So as part of the consultation, I wrote to the client, I summarized what I believed to be true about the house, and I gave them advice about how to find the right local architect for them. So if you have a property anywhere in the UK and you're thinking of extending it, altering it, refurbishing it, changing its layout, whatever, you can book a consultation with me. The link to reallifearchitecture.co.uk is in my profile. Check it out. But you can also get lots of free advice. The Real Life Architecture website is packed full of free videos and blog articles showing exactly how to do all sorts of things that you would need to do to your home, from planning, building regs, construction costs, etc. It's all in there. So it's become a real resource for homeowners across the UK looking to do any kind of work to their house.